Hello, everybody. Welcome to another very special episode of Carlton People. On today's episode, I've got a guy who most of you, if you are on Twitter, you'll know exactly who this bloke is. He's the Carlton man that we find working at Croc Media and posting informative, analytical articles to SEN. I speak of none other than Mr. Nick Negroponte. Yasso, Nick.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for getting me on.
No, mate, it's a pleasure. Like I said, I'm not really a massive Twitter person. I usually just get on Twitter, really just to watch AFL Twitter grow and obviously share all the Blue Abroad videos there. And I've noticed, there's always the notable names that come up, and yours is definitely one of them because you usually pop up when you've got an article that goes up. Mate, tell me a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where to start, honestly. I just sort of tweet angrily about Carlton all the time because, it's sort of us as Carlton fans have sort of grown up with nothing more than frustration at this club. And so I've just always found it interesting to sort of just tweet thoughts about Carlton. And going through journalism school and getting into the media, I probably should tone down the Carltonness and become a bit more objective, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to be a Carlton person. So I just, write what I want to write, tweet what I want to tweet. No one's pulled me up on it so far, so all good at the moment.
Seems to be working well for you there. I like it. Well, that's really the purpose of the video today and the interview today. I want to dive deep into your Carlton story and sort of where it all began for you. And I must take note of the beanie that you wear in there.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a story behind that. So I would love for you to share that in a moment. But maybe take us back to the very beginning. So how do you become a Carlton supporter? Where did it all begin?
So my mum is a Carlton supporter. My dad and my younger brother, are both North Melbourne. So we're a split family. Why my mum goes for Carlton? Couldn't tell you. Her parents are both Richmond, so I don't know how she ended up going for Carlton. She doesn't really follow footy that much, but she's a Carlton supporter, brainwashed me at an early age, and now I'm a diehard Blues man myself. So it's just always been what I've known, really. One of those things where you don't really get a choice. You sort of just, you're one thing, and then, yep, here we go.
It's passed down to you.
Yeah.
So what's your earliest memory of watching Carlton or going to the games, or where does it start for you?
My earliest Carlton memory is not a great one. It's a Carlton player, I think Anthony Koutoufides, getting carted off the ground on a stretcher in a Richmond preseason game. I don't know even if that's true or if it was Kudo or who it was, but I remember being really upset in the stands. And honestly, that probably set the tone for this decade of being a Carlton supporter, but that's my earliest memory. It's probably about 2001, 2002 is when I was old enough to start really getting into Carlton. I was 6 or 7 then. So, I picked us mid-early 20s Carlton fans have sort of had a rough deal of it, when compared to the 90s and the early 2000s as well.
Tell me about it, brother. I mean, I'm a 91 boy, so I'm late 20s now, and it's pretty much the same. I can't really claim to remember the 99 prelim. I don't remember it. I remember watching it on tape and things like that. And the fact that I'm watching it on tape probably goes to show where I've come from.
Yeah, I've got the VHS as well, don't worry.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, the Omen was, your first memory is Kuda getting injured. And had you just listened to what the Omen was telling you, who knows? Maybe you could have picked another team. But no, obviously we're proud Carlton supporters, nevertheless.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about the work you've done with the Bull Ants and the Blues, and from there.
Yeah. So in what year was it? 2013, 2014. I was badgering Christian Filippo, who's the Northern Blues media man, Carlton media man, all round. Legendary man.
Folk figure at the club.
So I knew him from a previous thing at Bound for Glory News, which no longer exists, a little online website. And I hit him up to see if he needed a hand with Northern Blues media stuff. I knew another fellow great man, Matthew Lodge, was moving on. And I was wondering whether Christian needed a hand. And he said, yeah. So I did that throughout my uni years to sort of get media experience and some hands-on stuff. And really, it was my first media job, even though I wasn't getting paid. It was sort of a volunteer thing.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, getting to work with the Northern Blues, getting to sort of follow Christian around, watch match reports, write match reports, watch the games. It was really cool. And I just sort of fell in love with the VFL Northern Blues side of things. And I guess obviously the beanie you can see here is the bull ant. And when the Blues announced their separation from the Northern Blues, that was a tough day. Obviously, it's unprecedented times, blah 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 blah. But so that's where I sort of started with working in regards to Carlton, and I did that right through to, I think it was 3 years there, and then obviously I got a job with first AFL Media and then Croc Media, and you can't do that and that because obviously they're a bit you get some special information working for a club that you obviously can't then use for journalistic purposes. So I had to move on, but it was a really great first 3 years. My first game working for the Northern Blues was an away game against Geelong on a Friday night, and so I drove down there in my 1998 Ford Falcon, found a spot. We were sitting in the crowd because the media boxes were all locked. So us, Josh Fraser, the coaches, all sitting in the crowd watching the game. Blues win in incredible fashion, one of their best wins in the last few years. And my car breaks down on the way home. So my very first memory as a member of the Northern Blues is a huge win and then being trapped in Geelong overnight. So, that about sums up the VFL, I think.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, well, that's a very. I mean, your story is quite unique to the previous Carlton people that I've done on this segment. In the fact that you've really sort of been on the inside, particularly on the VFL side. Obviously, you just mentioned how sad it was to hear the split. What do you see happening now with our second tier comp, whether it be Bull Ants or Northern Blues? What are you thinking is the way forward?
So it seems as though the AFL is going to just set up a sort of what we're seeing this year, where teams can organise their own scratch matches. I feel like that'll be a separate entity to the VFL. I think the VFL will return next year. I think the Bull Ants will return next year as well. I think there's a lot of people. The president is doing a lot of work to get the Blues back up and running. Sorry, the Bull Ants back up and running. And good on them, and I hope that's a huge success. I think they'll be separate entities next year. I don't know whether there'll be a relationship or whether the club can afford it. But I think the twos in the VFL will be separate things, and we'll sort of see more of we're playing St Kilda this week, so we'll have a scratch match against St Kilda, or we're interstate in Sydney. Okay, we'll have a scratch match with the Giants. I think that's more how it'll look.
Yep.
At least in the next few years, while we're still recovering from this whole mess.
Yep. Let's go back to our Blues, our Carlton Blues. Give me we know our experience growing up. We know that we've had a salary cap infringement. We had a rise with 3 number 1 draft picks at Juddy, and it was all looking good. And then it all of a sudden was no good. We're in this next rebuild, so to speak, on a high level. Where is the club at in your view? What are some of the themes and issues that come up in your mind when you think about the club now?
Yeah, shut up, computer. It's a good call. It's hard to know where the club is. I'm still confident that we're 2 to 3 years away from it all coming together. Mm-hmm. We could not have gone to a lower point in a rebuild in terms of we stripped everything back. We ripped the list completely down, and we built it back up again with 11 first-round draft picks and a ton of young players from other clubs. So I was never expecting 2018, 2019, 2020 to be years where we rocket up the ladder. Our list profile just said that wasn't going to be the case. So I'm confident in the next few years that we can get back up the ladder. I think it depends a lot on the success of our top draft picks. Petrevsky seen developing into a good midfielder. Paddy Dow probably needs to make it. I'm confident Setterfield will make it as a midfielder now. He's had a really good year. Jack Martin is a huge pickup who we got for nothing. So I'm confident that... Sorry, let me just bring back. I'm confident that we will get there. It's just a matter of, honestly, patience. And I know it's hard to be patient when you're a Carlton fan and you've been bad since 2003. But I think patience is still the order of the day here. I think the club will get there. It would have been nice if we landed a Cornelio or a Shield or someone to sort of accelerate that.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get there in the next couple of years. Hopefully we can bring in a Papley or an Ollie Wines at the end of this year and sort of fast track the midfield a bit. There's still a lot of things we need to work out, but I'm still confident in the direction of the club, and our competitiveness so far this year is what is something I've enjoyed so far.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, a lot of people have short memories. It wasn't too long ago that we just couldn't even run out games with a full 22. You know, they just weren't physically capable of doing it. You know, we are competitive. We are fitter. But just further to your point of the patience. So I ask a lot of people this. Where do you draw there's a balancing act of, you know, young list, patient, got to give them time to develop, and then sort of contrasted with pressure to win? Like, where does that meet for you? How long into this process will you start turning from, okay, they're young, to, hey, let's win now?
I think Tiggy has set a good mindset with the club. In terms of, if you look back at the St Kilda game last week, 12 months ago, we lose that game by 80 points, I reckon. I reckon they absolutely destroy us through the midfield, and I think we drop our heads and lose that game quite significantly. Instead, we turned it around, we got back into the game, and we didn't get the win in the end, and we only really played a quarter and a half of good footy. But teams actually have to beat us. It's not a matter of when we were under Brendan Bolden, and you knew immediately, okay, Carlton's either going to be competitive and lose by 20 points, they're going to somehow win, or they're going to lose by 60 to 100 points. That's gone now. It's clear that this team is competitive enough and is an AFL standard team, which is a low bar, but it's something we haven't had very often in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think at this stage, I'm not, like, obviously I want us to win every week. We go into a game against the Bulldogs this week. I'm hoping that it's going to be a game where there's pouring rain and it's going to be a scrap, because otherwise
it's neutralized. Yeah.
I think they're too clean a team for us, but I know that we're not going to get smashed. I don't know when this is going up, but if we did get smashed, this is going to look awful. But I'm confident that we're not going to win every week. We're not going to beat teams constantly, but we're going to be competitive, as you saw against Geelong. We're going to punch a team in the mouth if they're not expecting it or if they're not ready for us. The Saints did a great job preparing for us, and they actively tried to quell us, whereas Essendon and Geelong sort of were just like, yeah, we're playing Carlton, we'll just let it go. I think we're going to beat a few good teams, and we're going to lose it to a few good teams, and we're probably going to have a few upsets along the way. But I think the team is slowly heading in the right spot. So I've got confidence that we're heading in the right direction.
Yep, fair call. I had a bit. I mean, I think I panicked after round 2 because we had those 2 losses, and I was just kind of like, when are we going to do this whole 0-3, 0-4, 0-5 whole again to start the year? And once we did lose to St Kilda, I mean, I was upset, but I wasn't so distraught because we have already seen something this year. We've seen something to suggest, hey, we're a little bit better than last year. You know, we've shown some improvement. So, yeah, sure. I like it. Your trust in the process, to quote Joel Embiid. I'm a big fan of it. Talk to me about your game day experience. Obviously, at the moment, we're not going to footy, and that's a real kick in the head, especially for us Melburnians who have, you know, grown up with the benefit of being able to go to the footy every week. So when you do go to the footy, what is your game day experience like?
Oh man, see, that's the thing. As someone who's working in the media, I don't get to go to a lot of games because a lot of my work, I work Saturday afternoons and Friday nights.
Yep.
So, and that's work in studio. So I'm in the Croc Media offices, usually doing match reports for 3 or 4 games at once. So I don't really get to go to a lot of games. I actually only went to 2 Carlton games last year. I went to round 1 against Richmond, and I went to the North Melbourne loss. So I'm clearly bad luck. I shouldn't be going to the game. So, and that North Melbourne game, I left at halftime. Not going to lie. I was with my mate, Paul Sebastiani, another Northern Blues aficionado.
He's a big fan of the channel.
Yes. I had to leave that game at halftime. I couldn't deal with it. I thought I was jinxing the club or something. So my match day experience is usually at home. I'm not going to lie. And it usually involves a lot of pacing back and forth and throwing things around and making sure there's a clear space where I can walk back and forth and not break things, you know. But when I do go to games, we have a ritual with me and my mum where we get 6-pack of Hot Jam donuts. We usually sit top right corner of Marvel Stadium or the MCG. We have a nice vantage point, so that general admission area, even though we're both members. So there's not a lot to it. Not a lot of thought goes into it, but that's usually how I go about it.
No, I can relate to you so much at home. If you're going to be watching from home, there needs to be the right environment. You need to have the right people around you. There needs to be space to pace. I could not agree with you more. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting. We're bottled up now as Victorians, more so than the interstate fans, because they can obviously go to games at the time of recording this. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next hour. But I kind of get the feeling like we're I don't know. I feel like when we eventually do go back to games, it's going to be so much more special given how much we've been boxed in and caged in. Talk to me about that, actually. You spoke about, obviously, your work. So you've got to be in the studio. When you do get the chance, and I know it was only twice last year, but when you do get the chance to watch us as a fan, how do you weigh up work and what you really enjoy doing?
There's no weighing up. I immediately go into full Carlton Nuffy mode, even when watching from home. I think my Twitter account on game day is a problem. I need to lock my phone or something and throw it away. I got into a bit of a fight with one of our producers a few weeks ago who supports one of the teams we were playing, because I tweeted about how Cripps was getting held at every stoppage and he was a supporter of the other team, and we got into a bit of a fight. So I need to stop tweeting during games. But so I revert back to full Nuffy mode. There's no work Carlton balance at all.
It's who you are.
I try to be balanced. Like last week, I sent out my tips. I said St Kilda would win. I think they're a class above us. And I got destroyed in my Twitter mentions. It's like, hold on, guys, I'm still a Carlton supporter, but I'm allowed to think that other teams are better than us. Like, that's just my objective view of where things are. And I didn't want to be right. And then I had people apologizing to me after the game. I'm like, dude, don't apologize. I didn't want to be right. That's just what my tips were. Like,
no, I get you.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. I try to be objective, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to be enough on game day.
I mean, it's the internet, so you can never be right to every single person. It's just the way it goes. It's just that melting pot of unlimited opportunities, and there's one end of the scale and there's the other, and everything in between has to happen at some point. So no, I totally understand that. So with the current list that we have at the moment, and obviously you're looking ahead to the future. I mean, I did take note, and we've spoken about the article you posted a few weeks ago about the midfield stoppages, a centre bounce, who's attending them, and we're starting to see potentially a shift in responsibility from Cripps dominant to, okay, the Setterfields, the Fishers when he's back, the Cunninghams, the Gibbons. Who of this next crop do you see is going to be the next one to elevate?
It's a good question, and honestly, it's the most important question with this team. Our key defender slots, I'm confident in. Our key forward slots haven't quite worked out yet, but I'm confident we have the players. It's just a matter of them working it out. There are probably holes. We need a young small forward. We don't have a small defender on our list who can guard, anyone with any pace. We still have questions with our ruck department. But the main question is, what does this midfield look like in 3 years' time? Cripps will obviously be there. Ed Kerner will be 33, 34 by then, so I don't expect him to be a huge midfield minutes guy then. If you look at it right now, Patrick Cripps attends 90 to 95% of centre bounces. Kerno attends the exact same, 90 to 95%. And then that third guy is Setterfield, Cunningham, or Martin. Those three guys are rotating, and Zach Fisher will go back in there as well when he returns, hopefully this week. So that will be sort of those four rotating through, and Mark Murphy, who was attending about 70% of centre bounces, is now down to 5%. He's been pushed out to the wing, which has worked really well. I think he's played really well there in the last few weeks. So the question is, who steps up and takes that spot? Under Bolton, it was Paddy Dow and it was Samo. Those were the two guys he had in the centre bounces all the time. And they were still too young and they were still too raw, and we got smacked most weeks. I still think that Samo is the guy who eventually has to become that player. If we're looking at Sam Walsh as being a wingman, which is how he's exclusively being played this year, then I think Samo has to develop into the on-baller. Or vice versa. If Samo goes to the wing, then Walsh comes into the middle. I think one of those two has to be the guy next to Cripps. And then I think we need to sort of fill that other spot with either Martin or Setterfield or whoever as more of a defensive role, which Curnow is doing right now. So I think whoever that third guy is has to step up and become the role that Curnow... Sorry, so Curnow obviously is the defensive guy. I imagine that role will be filled by either Setterfield, Fisher, or Walsh. But whoever that second guy is needs to be the offensive threat next to Cripps. And I hope that it's either Petrevsky, Seaton, or Dow. Yeah. They're still the guys that we drafted to be that, and we spent a lot of draft capital on them. I think they need to develop into that guy. They're not ready yet. Dow is obviously still injured. We're using Samo in the back line at the moment, again, because we have no other small defenders on our list. And then I think Walsh and Lockie O'Brien will become our wingmen, our outside midfielders. And we need that we need one of Samo or Walsh, depending on which way they want to develop into that midfield role. And I think it's the most crucial question for Carlton fans now is who will stand next to Cripps in our starting midfield round 1, 2022. Do we go out and get another player, or do we stick with what we've got and develop it? I think that's the key question.
Yeah, fair points. Fair points completely. You touched on a few players that don't play at the club at the moment. If I gave you an unlimited war chest, and this is a little bit exuberant, but if I gave you an unlimited war chest, who is one player from another side, any position, any player that you could put into this team right now, who would it be?
It's really frustrating because the answer is Stephen Coniglio. What we need is that sort of classy inside-outside midfielder who can stand next to Cripps. He's not as slow and grunty as Cripps, but he can still be an on-baller who goes to 15 or 16 out of 20 centre bounces. So, yeah, Coniglio would have been perfect. I don't really know who's going to be available in the upcoming free agency trade period. Guys like Ollie Wines, who's more closer to Cripps. I don't know whether you can play the two of them together, but it's worth finding out. Guys like Brad and Matt Crouch will probably be available, but again, they're very similar in that they're good contested ball winners, but they're terrible kicks. And we more need someone who's going to receive the handball from Cripps and get the ball forward. Yep. I think that's sort of the midfield that we need. Someone like a Coniglio, someone like a Dylan Shiel who can explode from the stoppages. So that we've been targeting the right players, we just haven't landed them. I think that's the kind of player. I think Papley could develop into something like that, honestly. I think he's probably top 3 small forward in the game right now. If we targeted him again, I wouldn't be surprised if he spent some time in the midfield. So, yeah, that's probably what I would target. I think we need that sort of inside-outside midfielder. We need a small defender because we still haven't replaced Zach Tui on our list, which is maddening. And we need the heir apparent to Eddie Betts. We need that young small forward. I don't know if Philp is that guy. I think Philp will become more of a midfielder. I really like the look of Josh Honey again, but he's not really a small forward either. So, yeah, I think that's what we need. We need a small forward, a small defender, and class through the midfield.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. One question before I let you go, and I ask this question to everybody before I let them go, because we'll look back on this video in however long it takes. Give me the year that you think we will win the premiership.
Okay, 2021 for the AFLW team. I think they're ready to win the flag next year.
Yep.
In fact, I think that might have won it this year had things not gone to shit. Geez, that's hard. I think it's got to be at a time before Cripps hits 30 and at a time when Walsh, Dow, Petrevsky, Seaton are 23, 24, 25. So let's say 2025, 2024. I think we need, like a lot of people compare us to Brisbane. I compared us to Brisbane last year. I think we're 12 to 18 months behind them development-wise. The difference is they have a ready-made midfield. They have Zorko, Neal, Lyons, these guys, Robinson, who are ready-made. We don't have that. So we need to develop that. And I think these guys need 3 or 4 years before we're a premiership-ready team. But I think we can get there. I think we have the list, the core of the list to get there in the end.
It's almost like we went and got the key position players first, and then
that was
the midfield is next. Yeah.
I think Sauce has spoken about that being actually the plan.
Yeah. And I guess just another point on what you said as well. Do you subscribe to the theory? And I know the Western Bulldogs have been the anomaly because they've just sort of had the year it worked, and I guess Hawthorn back in 2008. But do you subscribe to the theory that in order to win the flag, we've got to go through, prelims or finals defeats to get that motivation, or do you think it can just click?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think we will need some kind of finals experience because there's not much on this list. So I don't expect us to just immediately go from 12th to the premiership. But we saw what Brisbane did last year. They went from 15th to 2nd and probably should have been in a preliminary final. So I think we'll probably need a year of finals experience before we're hardened enough. But that depends. I mean, it depends on who we bring in. It depends on what our team looks like. So, yeah, honestly, anything is possible. I think we do need finals experience because, again, the list is young, it's growing. I think the best list to compare us to is GWS, if anything, a young team sort of growing up together, and they've needed a few years of being pounded to get over the hump. But there's plenty of time. This list has 6 or 7 years to get of competing. So I think once our sort of time frame is Cripps's career. And he's got 7 or 8 years left, and this team is going to grow up around him. So we've got all that time to compete.
Yep, love it. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've really enjoyed staring into the bull ant for the entire time. Thank you very much for this, and go the Mighty Blues, hey?
Thanks for having me, Terry. It was nice to chat.